Back with another episode of Shamrock Sports. Notre Dame women's basketball making a deep tournament run, and we're on a run with them here at Notre Dame Television. Today we're taking a look back at the round of 32 victory over Ole Miss, previewing the Oregon State matchup in Albany in the Sweet 16, and bringing you back to ShamBookie for our picks as Notre Dame takes on the Beavers. It's all coming up next, right here on Shamrock Sports. Welcome to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center for Shamrock Sports, previewing the Sweet 16 for Notre Dame women's basketball matchup with Oregon State Friday afternoon in Albany. Along with JJ Post and Jake Miller, I'm Tyler Reidy. Fellas, great to be with you once again. Let's get right into it, talking about a big win Monday afternoon in the round of 32 for Notre Dame. 71-56 the final as the Irish took down Ole Miss, an ACC-SEC matchup that went the way of Notre Dame on Pete Pavakwa's first day as new athletics director. JJ, what was the key to Notre Dame's 15-point win Monday?
Team defense was huge for Notre Dame. You know, Notre Dame came out in their 2-3 zone as usual, but a little bit of a tweak. They dared, I should say, Ole Miss to shoot the three ball. Ole Miss shot 28% as a team entering the game. They don't shoot a ton of volume threes. They know their weaknesses. They know they're not a perimeter shooting team. Notre Dame knew it too, though, and they said, hey, we're going to clog up the interior. Don't attack us zone down low. Attack us outside and make us commit to you on the perimeter. Ole Miss wasn't able to ever answer that question. They kept on trying to drive in, but Maddie Westbell and Nat Marshall doubled every time. They held their ground. They refused to relent. It felt like Ole Miss kept on thinking, hey, if we keep on crashing, if we keep on trying to back Nat Marshall and Maddie Westbell down, they're going to relent. They never relented. Ole Miss had to be reliant on outside shooting for really the first time in any game in that they wanted to win all year. Usually when they win, it's through inside, interior scoring. They weren't able to do that. They didn't win the game.
Jake, Nat Marshall, JJ talked about her. Good defensively, maybe even better on the offensive end with 5 assists. What did you see from her?
5 assists, 4 points. Not the flashiest of performances. That goes to Westbell, that goes to Hidalgo. But what she was able to do on the defensive side of the ball and able to help out and guard in the perimeters, we send it to the tape. On the offensive side of the ball, she was willing to go ISO, willing to take those little 6-footers, willing to take difficult layups that throughout maybe the start of the course of the season she wasn't taking. You know, 5 assists. Here's a nice one. Becca Vima gets a game. Nobody knows who she is. She's not guarded. And then some nice passes as well in the passing game. But then look at this. A spin move, go up, other side of the basket. You look early in the season, she would not have made that kind of layup there. So she's really grown as a player. She's really grown. I think she's going to really step into whatever lies next for her in this game against Oregon State this weekend. But she was key to Notre Dame's performance because Ole Miss was not charging down in the paint, was not attacking down in the paint. A lot of the reason they had the ability to might be because of how well Maddie Westbelt, how well Nat Marshall played together, and they just didn't want to go for that. Other options were even worse.
Now Notre Dame readies for a Sweet 16 battle with Oregon State Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern at MVP Arena in Albany. Notre Dame will hit the road on Interstate 90 and just take it all the way down to Eastern New York. JJ, you and I will be there. So let's start talking about what Oregon State brings to the table and yet another postseason rematch between the Beavers and Fighting Irish. Reagan Beers is a menace on the inside for OSU.
Absolutely. Notre Dame's post defense once again going to be challenged. Ole Miss, it was by committee. Ole Miss had a deep, long roster. They knew there was going to be 5 or 6 players that were really going to try to power at Notre Dame's interior defense. They couldn't get it done. But what Oregon State brings to the table is one true star down low. Reagan Beers, a player that can take over a game in that low post. You see here, just to really go inside, then take it right back to her, or go outside, then take it right back to her. Easy layup. She's got a real presence on the interior. It's not like this is going to be a host of players that keep on battering you. It's going to be one player, and when she gets in her groove, she is so hard to stop. Third-team All-American name this year. Really a player that's going to be consistent on the interior. You're not going to be able to take her out of the game. You've seen Notre Dame previously sometimes just, hope a player has an off day, hope they're going to have a bad shooting day. Even when Beers isn't at her best, she's still going to give you probably at least 14 points. It's just going to be how they account for that, how they don't foul while accounting for that. One of the underrated things they did well against Ole Miss was they didn't really, in the fourth quarter, Westbell and Marshall both got to 4. But to that point, they made it through the first 3 quarters with the game pretty much out of reach by that point without ever really having to worry about their foul rotations. Can they do that against a player that is going to know they're going to need to win those interior battles to win the game?
Jake, an Oregon State team that finished 4th in the Pac-12 ended with games against Stanford and UCLA and USC, some of the top teams in women's college basketball. Now they deal with Notre Dame. What do the Beavers bring to the table for you?
It's really interesting because when we talk about Beers, she's clearly the biggest threat to Notre Dame on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, the Irish are going to go through Beers to score. She's a huge weakness, actually leads all players on the court with a 78.5 defensive rating, super low defensive rating. And there's a lot of reasons how Notre Dame can attack. Take a look right here at the film. They press the post out, so she's kind of help defense. Now there's a lot of ways to go. You can go towards the basket, you can pass it out. Here against Nebraska, Nebraska takes the screen. They have some room. Look where she is. She's at about the elbow. Nebraska player can attack, go inside, lots of space, or shoot. What happens here? Drive, tons of space, no contact. Takes it in for a nice scoop and score there. Again, take a look at where she is in this scenario. You play the post out, like maybe Notre Dame will with Maddie Westbeld, and she's kind of at the elbow. That's a terrible place for her as a post. Then you can go into the lane, you can pass it out. Nebraska decides for whatever reason to take a little lob shot. But take a look here. If you're Maddie Westbeld, what you got to do is got to rebound off the roll. Go to the basket, get a rebound, get a second chance opportunity. They don't do it here. The other thing to consider with Beers is that she has a lot of size, but not a lot of skill at the basket. Here you have two one-on-one matchups, and because Colorado here is able just to go a little lob on the other side of the court, just plain man-to-man defense, she makes little mistakes. Colorado has a simple inbound, goes down in that last clip, ends up scoring the ball just simply because Oregon State wasn't fast enough. They didn't get ready. They're the slower team. Notre Dame can dictate pace. They can dictate tempo here in this game. I think you're going to see that. And something else I think you're going to see, Oregon State, they don't have that athleticism. They also don't have the same stamina. You see players like Hidalgo, Westbeld, Citron playing near the whole game, near the 40 minutes. Oregon State's players don't do that. They have decent depth. But Beers is playing about 27, 28 minutes a game. It's really not the same. So when those players are out and you got the bench players in there, I think you're going to see Notre Dame really try to take advantage. One other player to note is Gardner. Gardner for Oregon State is this impressive player from three. Kind of a post player, a forward. You don't see a lot of three-point performances as good as she does. But if Notre Dame is playing a 2-3 zone, you need to have a spy on her because you simply cannot let her get loose. 40% from three. She shoots 40% from three. That's unheard of in college basketball. She doesn't actually take that many shots, but when she's open, she's going to make them. She averages about 2 makes a game, which is really low considering her talent. If she's open and that's Oregon State's, the Beavers' key to victory, that number will rise. Notre Dame has to be very careful on how it deals with it.
Oregon State Notre Dame, the 3-2 seed matchup in the Albany 1 regional. South Carolina, the overall number 1 seed, meets 4th seeded Indiana in the 5 o'clock game Friday. Winner to play at 1 p.m. on Easter Sunday afternoon. We'll take a quick break here on Shamrock Sports and return with Trey Cody. Yes, he's back on the mini court to take us through some defensive sets here on Shamrock Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ND Sunrise.
This is the
Review of the Keenan Review.
That's right, we've got a big game in Sin City.
Plot twist, I am the Grim Reaper.
Overall, this year's event was a rousing success.
Would Notre Dame be the first one to accept ASL as a foreign language as a department?
Once again, I'm Elena Morgan from ND Sunrise, signing off.
Here at Shamrock Sports, previewing Notre Dame, Oregon State in the Sweet 16, and one of the big reasons the Irish won and covered against Ole Miss on Monday, defense. And here to break it down, returning to the mini court, it's Trey Cody. Trey, the floor's yours.
Well, it's good to be back. Lovely to be on the mini court again after that wonderful victory over Ole Miss from the women's basketball team this past weekend. And a big part of the reason that we won, we covered it a little bit earlier in the show, was that 2-3 zone that we played. But I was really interested on how Niele Ivey prepared this team to kind of guard an Ole Miss team that, JJ, as you mentioned, shot 28% from three throughout the year. And our real we were forcing them to shoot from deep. We really wanted to make them shoot threes. In that first round matchup, they only shot 5 3-pointers. We forced them to shoot 12, and they didn't shoot it at a high clip. And now we're going to demo a little bit of how we ran that 2-3 zone in different variations to kind of make it work. So let's start up here. So we got Miller and I, Jake Miller, at the top of the 2-3 zone. I'll be Hannah Hidalgo. He can be Anna DeWolf. And then we got the 3 bigs at the back. We got Nat Marshall, Maddie Westbeld, and Sonia Citron holding it down back there. So the way that this worked, let's say the ball's over here, right? Right over here. I got the ball. He is going to be right here guarding their big, and I'm going to be out here on the ball. We were forcing them to shoot that three. That wing is wide open. There's absolutely nobody over there. And that was the entire game. If the ball swung over there, Jake would take the ball, Aya's Hannah would drop back into the middle, leaving this once again wide open. These three at the back would be down, all the way down, forcing them to get it that way. And that just kept going. There was even one where the ball started from here, came over here, Hannah held, Hannah came all the way over to take the ball, and Hannah dropped. I've never seen that before.
It's a 1-4 or 1-1-3
I've never seen that before. Going from one wing all the way to the other, the whole time leaving the ball handler wide open from three. That's something that was really, really, really spectacular from the LIV, and that's, I mean, it's forcing a team that doesn't want to shoot to shoot.
What happens against this Oregon State team who has, how do you defend the post and then at the same time defend the player that shoots 40% from three?
Well, this is going to be interesting because this is an Oregon State team that took 33, and no, I'm not saying that wrong, 33 three-pointers in their second-round matchup against Nebraska. So they're really going to have to key in on some of those shooters. They had two girls. One of them took 11. One of them took 9 shots from three.
Yep.
So they really huck it up there. So what we're going to have to do is probably have Nat Marshall play a little bit higher in the post here and then have the two bottoms squeeze in a little bit to kind of cover on the back to guard their big. It's going to be a lot more work than the Ole Miss game. We're not going to be able to leave them so freely and clog the paint. It's a new dimension that I'm really excited to see how LIV tackles it.
It'll be very interesting for sure. And you got to take a look now at Regan Beers. Is this triangle you think going to work against a third-team All-American, post? How do you both defend the three and defend Beers at the same time?
It's going to be tough, and there's going to need to be a lot of crashing from the top players. Hannah and Ann are going to need to come down on her. If she gets the ball at the high post there, we're going to need some pressure. And if she's able to turn and kick that out to one of their shooters on the perimeter, that could be a wide open shot. It's going to be tough to defend, but I think the Irish have it. They just gotta work hard and really be patient on defense and buy in. It's going to be tough, but I think that there's a chance they can hold it down. And I'm looking forward to what Coach Ivey implements going forward.
I was really hoping Jake would take that left wing three out there, but
that was not going to go in.
Nevertheless, we appreciate the demonstration as always from Trey. Irish defense looking to lock it down once again against Oregon State. We're looking to lock down our ShamBookie picks when we return here on Shamrock Sports.
Hi Irish, my name is Elisa Honey and I'm the Ndtv Director of Operations. If you'd like to support Ndtv, make sure to click on the link on the screen or in our description. It's an Amazon link, will take you straight to the site, and any purchase you make through that link, we receive a small portion of the revenue. This is a great way to support Ndtv and get all those things you need for the perfect Notre Dame tailgate. I'm talking, mugs and flags and hats and all the merch that you need. So make sure to click on that link and support NDTV. We're here for all of you. Thank you.
Welcome back to Shamrock Sports here in the second floor of the Duncan Student Center with JJ Post, Jake Miller. I'm Tyler Reidy, bringing you ShamBookie after we broke even on Monday in the Ole Miss game. Let's see if we can go undefeated here going into Oregon State. We're going to start by covering an instance that happened in the Ole Miss game. Hannah Hidalgo, Sonia Citron, Maddie Westbell, the top three Notre Dame scorers, all scoring at least 15 points. Again, it happened Monday. Jake, is it going to happen again Friday?
I think it will. I don't think there's a way to really shut down all three of these players. If you're Oregon State, you have to defend the three. You also have to defend the post. You have to defend passes out to people like KK Bransford, Anna DeWolf. I don't think any one of them is going to be dramatically above 15, but I think all of them are going to hit that. I'm saying yes.
JJ, your thoughts?
I like the over as well, or the yes as well. When you look at Notre Dame's best games this year, not necessarily their biggest games, but the games they're playing their best basketball, it's when they get all three involved, because when all three are involved, it's so hard to defend each player individually. When Hannah Hidalgo is attacking hoop, that means there's more space for Citron and Westbell to stretch the floor. When Citron and Westbell are spacing the floor, that means the interior is opened up for Hidalgo to make her drives and get to the line. If you're Notre Dame, you want all of these three players involved, and you think your best chance of winning this game is to get all three players involved. I think the game plan is going to be very deliberate. You saw against Ole Miss, just 2 bench points for Notre Dame.
Yep.
They know where their scoring is going to come from. It's feeding the way to the big three, as Neil Ivey calls them. I think they all go over 15.
Don't we forget that Obinma layup. I think there was a couple more.
All right, love that. Agreement on the first one. This is an interesting second prop here. Over under Maddie Westbeld, 4.5 fouls. We talked about how Regan Beers is going to test Notre Dame on the inside. JJ, is she going to do it enough to force Maddie to go over 4.5 fouls?
I think it's going to need to be under if Notre Dame's going to win this game, so I will take the under. Ivy has shown that, usually when players foul up, you get very careful of their minutes. Westbell's the exception to the rule. Notre Dame needs to have her on the court. She had 4 fouls, and I believe she played just under 40 minutes. Like she had one brief rest somewhere in there. She's a player that, no matter what her foul situation is, Notre Dame at all costs is going to want to have her in the game. So that might make you think she's going over. But Westbell has shown in games of these magnitude, whenever Notre Dame has needed her most, she's able to keep the fouls under 5. I think Notre Dame is going to get pushed to it. I bet it's going to be 4, but I think she keeps it at 4 and doesn't foul out.
Jake, you think Maddie Westbeld fouling out is the safer call here?
I do too. You take a look at the last time Notre Dame has faced a really strong true center. It would be Liz Kitley in the regular season. Didn't face Liz Kitley, remember that ACC tournament game. I think with Kylie Watson out, Notre Dame is going to need to take some fouls. If you had another 5 fouls to give down low, somebody there, I'd say maybe not. I'm going to go with the over on this simply because between her and Marshall, I don't think you'll see Branford down there a lot. I think somebody has to play physically. You have to play physically once you go against a player like Beers. And even though she might not be trying to foul, she showed good reserve this past week. She had 4 fouls on Monday. She had foul trouble earlier on Saturday's game. Monday, not as much of a problem, but she did end up with 4 fouls. She's going to have to play so physical. She's going to have to play so tight. I think she could reserve herself, but in doing so, she might be giving away some defense. I think she's going to be aggressive. She's going to be physical. I think she'll get 5 fouls. That might be late in the game, though.
Westbell coming off a 20-point game against Ole Miss, a team that Notre Dame could not cover the spread against. Irish are 0-2 against the spread in this NCAA tournament, and now they go into an Oregon State matchup that we'll talk about this spread for. Jake Miller, let's start with you. You've got the Beavers covering for a 3rd straight Irish opponent.
I do have the Beavers covering. First spread worked. We won't talk about Monday. It's an interesting matchup. I do think it's one that if they had Kylie Watson for, it could be very close for Notre Dame. But the idea of having to play these bigs, not only is Beers there, Oregon State has a couple really good bench bigs. So they come in, they play the second team. It's a downgrade, but not much of one. Without the ability to have 5 extra fouls, that's the biggest thing in this game. Just not having a competent body to be on the floor and take 5 fouls is going to hurt Notre Dame. I think even if they do everything best on the offensive side of the glass, it could be a long day playing defense. Notre Dame needs to set the tone and dictate if they have any chance. At a neutral site, I'm not super confident here. A lot of the reason Notre Dame had success in the ACC tournament was a bad luck on the other team, not that they played exemplary well. I think they're going to have to play more man defense, get away from the 2-3 zone with this team. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll go down to the 4th quarter until maybe a foul out, but I got Oregon State in the end.
Men's soccer, football, and JJ, you're adding women's basketball to the list of success for Notre Dame against Oregon State in the postseason.
So the line is 1.5, correct?
Yes.
I think that's a great line because that's just money line, basically. Barring a 1-point win, which I don't think Notre Dame has a single 1-point win on the year. It's just a money line pick. I have, full disclosure, I picked Oregon State in my bracket because I think it's a good value pick. I think this is not a great matchup given how good Beers is down low. And like Jake talked about, they have the depth to, even if Beers isn't on the court, challenge Notre Dame in the low post. But I also think this Notre Dame team has shown they have a level of grit that I think no one really, thought they had. We had talked about this, ad nauseum back in February when they lost 2 of 3. We're like, maybe this is just going to be the story of the season. It's a young team. They've put a lot of trust in Hidalgo, who's obviously great, but a young team will take their lumps, especially the injuries Notre Dame had. No one, I think, would have faulted Notre Dame if they collapsed down the stretch. Instead, this team got tougher. Maddie Westbeld talked about it. They found an inner resolve. They've won 10 straight. I think South Carolina's going to be an insurmountable task. I do think they get past Oregon State, though.
Okay, Notre Dame to the Elite 8, says JJ Post. Irish in the Sweet 16 face Oregon State, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday in Albany, New York at MVP Arena. You can catch the game on ESPN. Looking forward to it for everyone here at Shamrock Sports and Ndtv. Helping put this show together, and of course, JJ Post and Jake Miller out here talking Notre Dame women's basketball for the 3rd time in a week. I'm Tyler Reidy saying so long, and we'll see you next time.